Prepare to question the very fabric of reality with a true, chilling fact from New Mexico. The town of Roswell became eternally synonymous with the unexplained after a mysterious crash in 1947. While the official explanation remains a weather balloon, countless witnesses, researchers, and conspiracy theorists believe it was an extraterrestrial spacecraft. To this day, the vast, desolate New Mexico desert surrounding Roswell is a hotspot for strange lights, unidentifiable aerial phenomena, and a pervasive sense of lingering enigma, suggesting that not all secrets can be contained, and some visitors are truly from out of this world.
This story was sent to me by a guy named Mark. He worked graveyard shifts at a lonely roadside diner in southern New Mexico. He says he's never feared a dust storm, until the night someone walked in with the wind. I've lived in New Mexico most of my life. Dust storms are part of it. You get used to the sky turning orange, the windows rattling, and the air tasting like grit. I used to think they were just weather, until I noticed the man who only came with them. I worked nights at a diner off Highway 285, halfway between Roswell and Carlsbad. We stayed open 24/7, mostly for truckers and lost tourists. Some nights, no one came in for hours. But whenever a dust storm rolled in after midnight, we always got one customer. Same man, every time. I first noticed him about 6 months into the job. The wind had picked up hard, sand slamming the windows, visibility basically zero. Around 2:30 a.m., the bell over the door jingled. He didn't track in much dust, even though there was a literal sandstorm outside. He just stepped inside like it was a calm spring day. Tall guy, gray windbreaker, beige baseball cap. Face rough, unreadable. Never made eye contact, never spoke. He'd sit at the far corner booth, order nothing. Stay maybe 10 to 15 minutes, then leave. First time, I figured he was just sheltering. But then I noticed something weird. When I cleared the table, he had left a folded napkin. No tip, just a name, handwritten in sharp black ink. Kelly Jameson didn't mean anything to me. I threw it out. Next storm, maybe 2 weeks later, he came back. Same booth, same silence, another napkin. Martin Escobedo. This time, I kept it. I asked my coworker if she'd seen him before. She said no, but added that storm nights bring out the weirdos. I asked if she remembered anyone ordering nothing. She didn't. From then on, I paid attention. He came only during dust storms, not rain, not wind, just those violent walls of dust that turned the world red-brown and made the air hum. And every time, another napkin, another name, never the same twice. I started collecting them. I had 7 by the end of the summer. I searched the names online. Most were nobodies, but 2? Kelly Jameson was a local who went missing back in 2014. Never found. Martin Escobedo, same. Disappeared in 2019 after a car broke down outside Artesia. Both times during reported dust storms. The connection chilled me. I printed out their missing person flyers and tucked them in my drawer, next to the napkins. On his next visit, I tried to confront him. The storm had just kicked up around 1:50 a.m. I stood by the coffee station when he entered. Same windbreaker, same baseball cap. I stepped in front of his usual booth. "Excuse me," I said. "Sir, can I help you?" He looked at me, just for a second. His eyes were pale, not cloudy, just pale, like faded blue glass. He didn't speak, just reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded napkin, and handed it to me. Then he turned and walked out before sitting down. I opened the napkin. This one had 2 words. Tonight, Mark Easton. That's my name? I looked outside. Nothing but swirling red dust. I locked the door. The wind howled all night like it was circling the diner. When morning came, the storm ended as quickly as it started, but the napkin stayed on the counter the entire night. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. I took it home, hid it under some books. Then I stopped showing up for shifts on stormy nights. The manager didn't ask why. Months went by with no major dust storms. Then, last week, I got a call from an old coworker. Said someone had walked in during the wind, same description. Sat in the same booth. She said he left a napkin again. Only this time, there was no name. Just one word, returned. I asked if she still had it. She said no. The napkin disintegrated when she tried to pick it up. I don't know what to think, but I checked the missing persons database again. Mark Easton, age 27, last seen at a diner outside Roswell. I never filed a report. But somehow, I'm listed. And the storm's coming again tonight. This story was sent to me by a couple named Hannah and Joel. They were on a cross-country trip through the Southwest when they stopped in Roswell. What was supposed to be a quirky detour turned into something they still can't explain. We were driving through New Mexico, heading toward Arizona, when we decided to make a quick stop in Roswell. You know, UFO Central. It wasn't part of the plan, just one of those we're already close decisions. Hannah had always been into alien stuff. I thought it would be good for a laugh. We got there in the afternoon. Main Street had the usual stuff. Alien head signs, novelty shops, classified tour pamphlets. There were a few vans parked near one of the museums advertising guided experience rides out into the desert, where supposedly people had seen lights or where crashed debris was found. All pretty gimmicky. We picked a company that called itself Clear Sky Encounters. No website, just a folding table and a laminated sign. The guy running it had a park ranger look, khaki shirt, sunglasses, gray beard, friendly enough. Said we'd be with one other couple. 5 people max per run. Sounded small and chill. He said it would be a 90-minute loop. We'd drive you out to 3 alleged sighting zones, do a little sky watching, take some photos, maybe pick up a souvenir rock, he joked. We paid in cash, $20 each, signed a form. No one really read it. The van was a white, unmarked Sprinter. Clean, kind of too clean now that I think about it. We left just after 7 p.m., right as the sun was starting to go down. The desert was beautiful at first. Golden light on scrubby hills, purple clouds on the horizon. We passed a few scattered buildings, then nothing but emptiness. After maybe 30 minutes, we realized something was off. There were no stops, no signage, no commentary. The tour guide hadn't said anything since we left town. He just drove. Hannah tried to ask him, "Hey, where's the first sighting?" He didn't respond, just looked in the rearview mirror at her, not angry, just blank. We figured maybe he was setting the mood, playing the part. So we waited, 10 more minutes, then 20. Now it was dark. The stars were coming out and we had no idea where we were. Joel leaned forward. "Seriously, can we stop? We're not really feeling this anymore." That's when the guy said the first real sentence since the ride began, "No one ever finishes early." He didn't look back, didn't explain, just kept driving. We exchanged a glance. Joel quietly pulled out his phone. No signal, mine either. The other couple in the van, 2 college-age girls, whispered something to each other. They looked nervous too, we weren't imagining it. The road turned into a dirt path, then just desert trail. Rocks and brush scraping the undercarriage. The van slowed. Headlights off. Now we were rolling forward in silence, guided only by starlight. That's when we saw the lights. Not in the sky, on the ground. Pale, white lights, low to the ground, scattered in a loose circle up ahead. At first we thought it was a house, but the lights weren't connected to anything. They weren't flickering or moving. They just glowed. About a foot off the dirt, like they were floating. The van stopped. The man turned around and looked at us, finally. And I swear, for a moment his eyes looked glassy, not reflecting light, holding it. He said, "If you want to leave, you can get out now. Walk back." Joel said, "Walk where? We don't even know where we are." The man opened the driver door, stepped outside, and walked toward the lights. Didn't say another word, just vanished into the glow. We all sat there frozen. Hannah whispered, "Should we run?" I looked at the dash. The keys were gone. The van was still running. No sounds except wind and a soft humming outside, like power lines but lower. We tried the doors, they weren't locked. The other girls bolted into the dark, opposite direction from the lights. I yelled at them to stop, but they were gone. Hannah and I just sat still. After maybe 10 minutes, the lights began to flicker. Then they all turned off at once. Total darkness. Then the headlights came on. The man was back in the driver's seat. We never heard the door open. He looked straight ahead, turned the van around, and drove back to town without a word. No one spoke. No one asked. When we pulled back into Roswell, the other girls were already there. Waiting outside the museum, one was crying. The other wouldn't say a word. The guy driving, he didn't stop. He dropped us off in the street and drove away. The van had no plates. The name Clear Sky Encounters doesn't show up online. The address on the waiver we signed? It belongs to a vacant lot. This story came from a woman named Riley. She's a hobbyist photographer who used to explore old sites in the Southwest. She doesn't do that anymore. I was traveling solo through New Mexico last fall, shooting photos for a personal project. Desert isolation, abandoned buildings, that kind of thing. I'd been getting some great stuff, old motels, rusted-out gas pumps, miles of empty road. Then, someone at a gas station told me about an old observatory out on a mesa, northwest of Socorro. Said it had been shut down in the early 2000s. Still has power, last I heard, the guy said. Creepy place, good for photos. That was all I needed to hear. It took me over an hour to get there. Dirt roads, no signage. Just a crumbling access path barely wide enough for my car. When I reached the top of the mesa, the observatory loomed out of the landscape. It was smaller than I expected, maybe 2 buildings total. One domed main structure and a flat-roofed annex connected by a breezeway. Faded government stickers were still plastered near the doors. The front entrance wasn't locked, just sealed with a heavy chain someone had already cut. I pushed it open and stepped inside. It was cool and quiet. Dusty, but not trashed. No graffiti, no beer cans or trash piles like I'd seen at other abandoned sites, which made it feel preserved, like it had been left intact on purpose. I started snapping photos, control panels, old corkboards, maps of constellations, yellowed folders with cryptic notes. The walls still had power conduits, blinking LEDs on some equipment that shouldn't have been running anymore. I found a staircase leading down to what looked like a monitoring room. The air got colder the farther I descended. At the bottom was a long hallway, doors on either side. I picked the one at the end. Inside was a computer room. 5 old monitors still running. Black and green screensavers slowly bouncing. The hum of a working server buzzed faintly in the back. I didn't want to touch anything, but the far right monitor caught my attention. It wasn't in screensaver mode, it was displaying text. Big blocky letters, white on black. Riley M., that's my name. Full first name and last initial. The way I sign most of my social media posts. Underneath it, flashing in red, accessing log. I stepped closer. My heart was pounding. The date and time on the monitor matched the current moment, down to the second. Then the screen shifted. Line by line, it began listing words I didn't recognize. Location, Mesa 12. Entry, unauthorized source, Riley M. Photo. Device detected logging behavior. I backed away. My camera, still hanging around my neck, beeped. The lens retracted. Then the screen on my camera, without me touching it, displayed a photo. I hadn't taken it. It was me. Standing in front of the monitor taken from the doorway, I spun around, no one there. I grabbed my bag, ran up the stairs and tried the main door. Locked. The chain was back in place. No way. I didn't stop to figure it out. I ran through the annex building instead, busted out through a side emergency exit and sprinted back to my car. The engine wouldn't start. Not until I deleted the photo. That same image, me in front of the monitor, was still showing on the camera. I held the trash button, hit confirm, and the moment it deleted, my engine roared to life. I drove like a maniac down that trail. Didn't look back. That night in my hotel, I tried researching the observatory. There's no listing for anything on that mesa. No satellite photos show a structure there, just rock and brush. I checked my GPS history. It recorded a stop, but it listed the coordinates as 0.00000 degrees, 0.0000 degrees. Nothing. I've been all over the country, photographing strange places. But that observatory, it photographed me.